Listen up, Gotham.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Hi, Buttons. It's me, Harley Quinn.
This is Batman.
This is Robin.
Tune into the Bat Fanatic podcast.
The Bat Fan Addict Podcast.
The Bat Fanatic Podcast.
The Bat Fanatic Podcast with Sammy Warmhands.
With Sammy Warmhands.
The Bat Fan Addict Podcast. Bat Fan Addict Podcast.
Although, Sam, you might think about changing the name.
Hey everybody, it's the Dark Knight of Rap, Sammy Warmhands, and this is the Season 3 finale of the Bat Fanatic Podcast. As always, I will be joined by my co-hosts Ben Polanski and Evan Vaught, and this will be their final episode. Today, we'll introduce you to our new co-host for Season 4, Gramps, aka Grandpa Batman from Bat Force Radio. I want to shout out our Season 3 sponsor yet again, TNK Comics, the Nando Knight himself. He's been a great friend to the show. Today we're going to review the winter-themed Swamp Thing Roots of Terror by Tom King and Jason Fabok. But first, I introduce every episode as the Dark Knight of Rap, so I made a super edit from my new album, Demented Inventive Energy, all the way back to my first album in 2007.
Cause I'm the Dark Knight of Rap, clown prince of rhyme. One more time for my people like I'm General Zord. Kill Bill, quicker than Bob Kane's ego. The clown prince of rhyme, a little bit of a bastard. Swing from the grapnel to face disasters. Unstoppable force and an immovable object. Dark Knight of Rap, but I kill it like I'm Asbad. Zard from Krypton, shitting on you in a 2-minute song. Who do you trust? Jack Napier with the rape you wit. Never mind the bullets at the Gotham police. It's what you do with your life, not who you are underneath. Rhyming in front of the asylum, I was caught a relief. Reclaim the night like Guy Fawkes by candlelight. Cause I'm always on the right side like Harvey Dent. Dark Knight like Shyamalan, hate with the twist. I'm a super dick donor, Christopher Reeve. Anonymous, Guy Fawkes, yeah, but I'ma just light 'em up like the bat signal when I hit the sky. But the man can't be ignored if I'm the simple. I'm staring down the homogeneous Oswald in a monocle. When you feel it's like Jonathan Crane with the mask on. But I'm an animal, Alan Moore in the marsh. Wishing for a superhero, Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. Now we're reforming the League of Our Own, keeping the scales of justice up, even the throne. And the kryptonite fear was never really enough. Cause I'm motherfucking filling me up. I'm Bruce Wayne, you do stain. No Vicky Bell threats can Bruce Lane. Cheap shots, attack like Bane. Knock you down, proper to your knees like back pain. But I'm no joker, no Jack Nick. Spray DFS on my casket. Radiance resurrected features like Ray Shao Cool. Batman, I'm a cavernous fiend. Saying Christopher Nolan is fucking up with the Dark Knight. Well, mister, you know you can't even parallel park right. Hell's vision, I melt Hell's Kitchen with malice. Carried it on my shoulder, swings and tongue like Superman throwing a bullet. Pop a fresh cut to Nick's ass. Oh my God, go killer, mentally ill. Back from the dead of the Red Hood. On the Batmobile, the Oracle calls me Sammy. So embrace the odds, I'm leaving them right in the face like Jason Todd. You're running around out performing, cause you spend more time when you're after Bob recorded. Back and back, cause I got more tracks than bats in Bruce's attic. You gotta think about the future. Grab your Guy Fawkes disguised. The Dark Knight of Rap, the original song. 2 P's and an iPod of the MC, the leads, but I need like I'm signed. Big tracks, like things like a Batman's back. If the hero's gonna die, then I better make a kill or I'm coming right back. Like a motherfucking villain, I'm an agent to chaos. I'm not the Dark Knight, I'm Azrael. And when the sparks ignite, I'll send your ass to hell. Who do you believe? Who do you trust? Killing myself, like Ledger did. Going crazy for a role, so I gotta take my medicine. Baddest motherfucker in a Batman belt buckle. And I hide my Wolverine and Batman from you. Now here comes the bat, motherfuckers, I'm back. Welcome everybody to the start of the show. The news dynamic duo on your home stereo. We got more records than your iPod 6. And now we're getting down on some Batman shit.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? I always ask that of all my prey. I just like the sound of it.
The Dark Knight of Rap's got a brand new song. What do you believe? That I just asked to be the next Chris Reeves? Fuck that, I'm Batman like Christian Bale. Back to the Batcave, got my gear on the long Halloween, do it all the year-long career of songs. Dropping knowledge, after rap I went straight to comics. Coming in like the flying Graysons, Tim Drake, Timmy, and a maybe Jason. But no Red Hood, no guns and ammo, dust off the mic when I come for battle. Demons Head or the League of Shadows, man with no name beneath the saddle. Call me Zildjian, I'm just a symbol, somebody tell Gordon to hit the signal.
Don't act like you're not impressed.
All right, well, for the first time welcoming to the show Grandpa Batman from Texas.
Howdy.
Welcome, Grandpa.
Grandpa Batman.
How are you doing, son?
You know, back in his day, there weren't no digital comics on a fucking screen.
I have no podcasts. We actually had a can and a string. Talk to each other that way. Had a rotary dial.
You're goddamn right.
Yeah. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I've really enjoyed the Bat Fanatic podcast for the last 3 seasons. And I'm sorry that this is the first and last time I'll probably be talking to Ben and Evan. Because, you know, you guys together as a group, your energy and synchronicity and the flow and energy of the show, it really sounds like 3 best friends just having a chat. And that's what I love about the show. So
It's 2 best friends and another guy.
Oh, fuck you.
oh,
He just stroked my earlobe.
You needed
no. I was trying to rub your rhubarb.
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite thing about it, too, is that I genuinely like listening back to the show, like if I'm on a long drive by myself, because it's just like we're hanging out. So much of the show is, and you'll learn this, like I try to really structure it around the story of what we're talking about, but I always tell the guys, like, fucking cut me off, especially if it's funny, you know? To me, it's really all about the laugh in the end and having fun with it. So it's a little different waiting for the lag of internet connections and things, but
You're like, was
Right.
that not funny, or did they not hear it yet?
Tell me when it lands.
Well, you'll learn this about me. I'm very forgetful. So sometimes I listen back to the Bat Force radio shows just so I'll know what I said, because I have no memory.
yeah.
You know, I'm all about whatever's in the moment, and they're not really planned or structured. It's just kind of a free-for-all a lot of times. But I'll seriously listen back and go, I said that? Oh, my God. So
Like, holy crap, I'm hilarious.
I am a funny guy.
How long have you been doing the Bat Force Radio podcast?
I think about 6 years.
Done.
Nice.
Were you guys all friends before? And
Well, I mean, it really just started out of getting to know each other through the Instagram social media. And we would get together, I think it was Skype at that time, just to talk about things that we were doing as a collective group, as the Bat Force. And we just had a lot of fun talking, you know, because at that time, DC was like sending us previews of the comics so that we could help promote them and stuff like that. It was almost like we were a little unofficial street team in a way.
sure.
Nice.
And we had so much fun talking. We're like, you know what? We're such funny guys. We think other people will think we're funny too. So why don't we just do a podcast? And that's really kind of how it started. You know, 1, we liked hanging out and talking with each other. 2, it was kind of like a little unofficial promo street team type of thing for the books that were coming out.
Yeah.
And it just grew from there because we got Paul Dini on the show.
Wow.
Is he known for something?
Yeah. And once you got Paul Dini, it kind of made us somewhat legit in a way. That just opened the door, and just through word of mouth, more and more of these creators started coming on the show. So it really kind of came a way for creators to come on the show and talk about books that they were working on and promote their stuff. It's just kind of evolved from there.
That's cool.
I had a similar experience doing my music show, the Take 92 podcast, where it just started out interviewing my friends. And then I started interviewing some of my better known friends, and then bands or rappers that I'd opened for. And then at a certain point, like I got Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys. And at that point, there's a shift. Like if you scroll through the old episodes, and like once I got a punk pioneer on the show,
Right.
everyone says yes after that. So like every episode after that, for the most part, was like bands I grew up listening to. Like, oh, you've done fucking this and that. Like, great. Yeah, no problem. No question. And so it sounds like you guys had a similar experience of like, oh, you got Dini? Yeah, sure. I'll come on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's just been a lot of fun getting to talk to some of those people. You know, here I was, you know, a kid. I kind of date myself, but here I was, a kid in the
The 1940s.
In the golden age when Bob Kane was first pumping out these silly books. We would put them in between our bike tires and make them fly like motorcycle. I grew up admiring these artists, like Norm Brayfogle, Jim Aparo, those kind of guys, because I really like Batman ever since I can remember. It's just really kind of surreal when you get the opportunity to talk to some of these people.
Yeah.
And you realize how shitty they are.
How depressed they are. They're like, man, I'm still writing these silly books. But no, it's really cool. It's really cool. So it's been a fun opportunity. But I really love Bat Force. Sometimes we would do some of the story breakdowns like what the Bat Fanatic does, but not as heavily. And I really miss that because, one, it encourages me to read more and keep up with a lot of the current stuff. Because I don't know if you know it, but, the only Batman story I've ever read is Dark Knight Returns. And that's the only story I read. I've read it like 4,000 times.
Well, that's a good one. That's good.
There are no other Batman stories but Dark Knight Returns. But, no, it's cool to get different people's perspectives and insights and opinions. And that's what I took listening to your show. I was like, these guys really break it down. I'm kind of on the level with Sam here. I'm just a diehard and I don't see the flaws or anything like that. And then you got Ben and Evan giving, a more rationale perspective. And I'm like, God damn it, they're right.
I was looking at my Letterboxd app last night. It'll show all of the movies you've rated and what your ratings are in like a graph.
Right.
And mine is just a steep incline. The most common rating I've given is 10 out of 10 because I watch my favorite movies all the time.
They're all perfect in our eyes.
Yeah.
I love movies. I'm glad they exist. Thank you.
Basically, yeah. That's, oh, wow, a new Batman comic. I'm already excited,
I'm glad I'm not working in the field.
So, we've kind of been chatting here for a moment, but we've mentioned on social media and on air now that Ben and Evan will be moving on from the show. And I really like what we do. And I was trying to think of if there's any way to continue. I thought, I don't know necessarily my friends here in town are into this stuff enough and experienced with podcasts and things, because that's also a skill set. And I thought, well, I've got all these friends out there online. Like, I wonder if we could do this remotely. I hit up you, Dunk, Grumps, and Tom, all from the Bat Force. And I'm like, well, this is awkward because you guys are all from the same show. And I'm going, hey, we're friends. Would you want to jump on my show? And so getting that response has been really cool. Like, I think the show is going to be me and you all the time. And as much as Dunk can come, he'll be there. And when he can't, we'll have Grumps or Tom. That's kind of what we're feeling out, I think, at this point. But you guys have all basically stepped up to help us continue. And I'm excited because when I was just doing the Take 92 podcast and I was only really starting to dive into this stuff as a collector again, I was listening to Bat Force Radio and Fat Man on Batman and Batman the Animated Series Show podcast, and sort of taking my experience with the music show and taking the things I liked about all these other shows and coming up with our own version of it. So to be here years later and we're friends and you're going to come and contribute and be part of this, that's really exciting for me to see where it's going to go now.
Yeah, well, the news was a little bittersweet because I didn't want you to lose Ben and Evan because, you two guys...
They're dead to me now.
They're dead to you.
This is our corpses here.
Yeah, literally.
Oh, I love you guys.
Thanks. That means a lot.
Thanks,
nice to hear someone that has enjoyed it. Because I haven't.
When you put out the request, my response was win.
Yeah, you jumped right on.
It was just win.
He was just stepping on your corpse as fast as he could.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Just like, close that casket.
Get Evan out of here.
It's my turn.
Drop the zeros, grab a hero. Now we can make it just full, unadulterated Batman love. No,
5 out of 5
bias,
every time.
No hate. It's just unadulterated Batman love.
Batman Love. I've been to that website.
But you know what? Sincerely, I hope that Evan, you and Ben come visit us. You're right there locally. You might as well stop in and.
That's pretty true.
They're like, I don't know.
I'm
ready to
moving.
be
Also,
done.
that's my
Come
big
in
announcement.
and
You're
punch
moving
him
to
every once in a
Alaska.
while.
To get away.
Isolate.
So yeah, I'm excited for what the future for the Bat Fanatic show is. I'm very optimistic about touching on some stories that you haven't talked about. But it's funny because every time you guys do an episode, I'm like, God damn it, I wanted to talk about that one.
Guys.
That would be my thing.
Well, it's funny. When we started, I wrote out this kind of map of like, I liked the idea of doing a show. And then I thought, well, could I even come up with enough episodes? Because again, at the time, I sort of have the basics in my collection.
Yeah, I have 30 episodes about the Joker. We have that.
No, but I was like, what do I have at that time? I've got the Long Halloween series and the Frank Miller stuff and, just kind of the core tenets of it. And I'm like, okay, can I come up with enough episodes to have an ongoing show? So I came up with 50 episodes that I'd like to do. And then as new things come out, we'll jump on those and my list will get longer and longer. And here we are over 70. And I'm like, but I want to do more. So,
oh, yeah, a lot more. And there's a lot of crossover stuff that I have in my collection. I'm just looking at my collection here going, man, I'd love to break down this book.
What's something that you would really like to do?
yeah, say it now so we can not do it. We're really good at mentioning a thing we're going to do and then not doing it.
No, I'm just curious what piques your interest.
I love when Batman gets involved with a character that's totally out of the norm, but yet when it's done right, it makes total perfect sense. I'm looking at Batman and the Shadow and then Shadow and Batman that DC did with Dynamite. That we've got
Batman versus Predator.
I mean, you joke. I love that.
Yeah. We'll get there.
which one? Because I think there was like
Yeah, I
three
think
parts.
there's been a couple.
The one I read when I was 9.
Yeah, it impressed you in the 3rd grade.
Yeah.
I don't know how it'd hold up now.
There's actually a long lost Bat Force radio show. We did an entire show about part 1. It's like an hour and a half long.
Nice.
And it's never come out. That's kind of the inside joke is like, yep, we'll get to that one as soon as the Predator story comes out. Here we are 3 years later, still waiting on that one.
Yeah, you know what? We have only done the animated version of Dark Knight Returns. So maybe season 4 will actually do Dark Knight Returns with you. How about that?
Perfect. Yeah. I've still got my notes. And I love when y'all break down the movies because, these animated films, they're done so good. Sometimes I'm like, why do we even have the live action version? Because they just can keep making these animated films so good. That's true to the story. Except here recently, they kind of got a little wonky with changing some of the plot lines. You know, for example,
Hush.
Killing
Gotham by
joke.
Gaslight.
Oh, Gotham by Gaslight, yeah.
Yeah, but I like the point that y'all made where y'all said, this actually feels original. They took the concept, but then they made something original where if you haven't read the title, and I'm looking at you two on the side.
Man, I haven't even watched the movie, technically.
Yeah, you didn't even watch the right movie.
Yeah.
But it'll lead you back to, okay, maybe I'll go check out the book,
That one was an anomaly because it was so different from the source material that they work together. But a lot of them, it'll be like, oh, well, we just changed who the big twist is in Hush or something. So like, well, you just ruined the story. You didn't make them like complement each other. You just, well, what if we change a couple things just to make it different?
And part of me, because you saw how animated Dark Knight Returns was, and you saw how animated Year One. I mean, they were pretty much panel for panel.
Yeah, word for word.
Word for word. There really wasn't much in the screen adaptation that changed from the comic. So I'm wondering if there's like DC Warner Brothers is like, Yeah, we're not going to pay any more royalties to these guys. We're going to kind of F them over and make something new out of this. We'll take the title, but we've already paid these guys enough, so we're going to make something new out of what they're doing. Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows?
There's probably tons of that.
What do you mean, who knows? You guys are the insiders.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of shifts since they sold out to Discovery.
Yeah.
Have you guys broke down the Batman 89 comic?
No.
Nope.
Actually, no.
No. That's another great one.
Yeah, we could do that this year.
Will you guys do the Cassandra Cain Batgirl series and Batgirl Year One and some kind of Kelly Jones vampire story? If you do those three things, I would be happy.
Will you still listen? Is that what you're saying?
No, but
Okay.
I just wanted to do this.
If you guys could review Batman Forever again.
Honestly, you're joking. I would listen to you guys talk about that.
I need
also. If
to
you do a good
hear
job,
other people's
I will
take on
listen
this
to that.
stuff.
So you just want us to redo old episodes with new people?
Yeah, there's a few. Yeah.
No, but inside of Gotham and DC, there's other characters that I want to explore and get into. No, not just Batman.
You want to talk about the
Huntress.
Joker a little bit?
Yeah, I want to prowl around and really get into the nitty gritty with a lot of other characters because there's so many. I don't have the opportunity to talk about that as much as I want. So why not use this platform?
One that I really wanted to do this year was I really enjoyed the One Bad Day series. And I remember, I think I was talking to Ben about it, and I was like, man, I really want it, but there's like 8 of them or something. Like, how do I squeeze these into, we have the season already mapped out what we're going to do. How are we going to do this? So I think season 4, what I'd really like to do in the way that we kind of alternate from one thing to another is I want to spread out and do that whole anthology, and then we'll mix our other titles in between and just try some different shit, because that one is a really cool way to focus on all these different characters, without just reading another Batman title.
I've only read the Riddler.
Well, perfect.
Enough.
That's the first one.
Yeah, that one right there was just like, oh my God.
That one turned me around on Tom King because I was on the fence about him, and actually today is the first time we're reviewing his work for the show in a Swamp Thing short, but that Riddler one really impressed me. Yeah,
Tom's an interesting writer, but you're right. There's good Tom, there's bad Tom.
Bat-Force Tom is bad Tom. Actually, he's the only one of the Bat-Force that we have actually met in person. The rest of you I only know virtually.
Excellent photographer. Great work.
Yep.
Yes.
Very huggable.
I mean, he's kind of getting big time now because he's doing all these awesome bands and awesome concerts.
Dude, he shot for Metallica this summer. It's insane.
That's cool.
I know. He showed me all the things that I'm like, you asshole. You can do all that for free.
That's amazing.
All the shows that I want to see out in LA for free. And I'm like, oh my God.
I hate you.
But I hate you.
Well, now you know how I feel listening to your podcast. I'm like, you guys get to hang out with Sean Murphy and Clay Mann and all these guys.
Well, you can come on the show and talk to these guys.
Oh, shit. You hear that? See, if you
get 3 questions.
If you had just invited me to join the Bat Force, then I wouldn't have had to do this shit in the first place.
You had to prove yourself for 3 seasons.
No, actually, what's funny is I feel for you guys sometimes when I listen, because there'll be like 9 of you on an episode, and I know you're waiting like 20 minutes to mention something, and the moment has long since passed, and you're like, should I still say it or not?
Yeah, it's like speak up or do without. But yeah, you're right. Sometimes in the very beginning, there was just like all of us on there, and I really felt sorry for the guests because they were just like getting hammered by these 9 nerds, and they're like, where's this conversation going? They're trying to promote a book.
Like, so you're here to talk about your new title, and they're like, but what pizza, man? Really, what pizza is better?
What? Yeah, what pizza? Which M&M do you like? Whatever.
Fucking Shake Shack or In-N-Out?
Exactly. You know us too well. Those lightning questions are old. I'm really trying to get into the nitty-gritty of these people. I want to know really what turns their butter.
Which of your 2 children would you sacrifice if you had to?
I need to ask the hard-hitting questions.
All right. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming on and doing this. We're going to go and do our final review here. I just wanted to introduce you to the guys and to our folks at home and let them know that, we're closing this chapter on these losers. But, we're still moving ahead. We're going to try to keep the thing going. And not just that, but with friends who are experienced with this stuff and love it just as much as me. And you guys have been doing it even longer than me. So I look forward to it.
Well, I'm excited. And again, Ben, Evan, I love you guys. And thank you so much for everything you've done on the show. It has not gone unnoticed. I've loved every show. It's been hilarious, very insightful. I've actually learned from you guys. Ben, I now use your quote, God paints with all sorts of brushes in my daily life now.
I was on the fence about you, but now I know you're a good fit.
Flatterer.
Well, you guys take care and enjoy your next show.
Thanks, buddy.
Very nice to meet
Thank you for the kind words, and thank you for keeping our boy company.
All right, man.
I am their love child.
It's going to be a rap battle.
Did you pay him to say that stuff?
I don't remember saying that.
Oh, I do. That's a great quote.
Hello, welcome to the Bat Fan Addict podcast.
I'm the Dark Knight of Rap, Sammy Warmhands.
Oh, so check it out. This will be the episode. People will have heard it by now. But I spent weeks going through every rap song I've ever recorded, including unreleased songs, features I've done for other people, every album, all of it. And I have compiled every DC Comics reference that I've ever made since 2007. And I have made a supercut of all of them. And so I'm going to open the show with it. I stopped counting at like 50. It ends with Spotlight from my recent album, which is all like references. 12 bars straight. So that one I just left uncut. But most of it are just like half a second at a time. And, it'll be like, Poison Ivy. Booster Gold. Whatever. I mean, I don't put in like, I don't put in just the words. I'll put in like a little bit of context. But when I started doing it, they would be like 2 or 4 lines or something, so you get the cool line, that I was going for. And then it started getting longer and longer and longer. And I'm like, I can't do that with all these. So I went and cut everything down, and then I went and cut everything down again. The point is the amount of references and how long I've been doing it. The point is not like, hey, look at me, I'm good at rapping. Like, if you want to do that, just fucking listen to the record.
Yeah.
But I had to cut out a lot of that shit.
Are they chronological?
I was going to do that. I was going to start in 2007 and move to present. Yeah. And then I was like, no one will listen to this if it starts with my terrible young rapping. And so I start with the new stuff and go backwards, but then I end with Spotlight.
A little sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like, there's no way that anyone's going to listen. Like, I'm the goddamn Batman, a Christian Bale. And, like, it's so...
I'm the goddamn Batman,
yeah.
Christian Bale.
It's so bad. Y'all. It's so bad in the beginning because it was just a joke. And so, like, I couldn't start there. But I did want to span the whole thing. And I was like, well, do I randomize it or whatever? And I just ended up going backwards. Which makes sense, too, because the new album has the whole DC Comics homage with the artwork and all that. Like, I mean, there's a fucking song called Zod. I mean, it leans in that direction.
Oh, yeah. Give me one of those stickers.
Oh, yeah. The DIE DC logo.
Oh.
I actually made it to you, and then... Come on. I feel like I'm just flicking cigarettes at you.
Yeah.
Okay, so final episode. Just on today's post, the first person was Carl Newman, who played Michael Keaton's double in The Suit, in 89. He says, well done to you all.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievably happy to be on that incredible wall, because right beside you is his autograph. I said, yes, it's been very fun. I've learned a lot. And he said, I'm so pleased to hear it. Pastor Batman 88 says, congrats, what an accomplishment. And our probably longest supporter, Austin Smith, says, guys, you will be missed. It's been an incredible run, and I've loved every minute of it. So those are some comments from today.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I did this because it's fun to do, but it's nice hearing people who liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was entertaining. I don't know, like 50 or 60 years from now when you guys are long gone and I'll still be pretty sprightly and young.
You will just be a disembodied head in a jar like Futurama.
Listening to this, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember being with those guys.
I remember when other people also lived on the Earth.
Yeah.
It wasn't just this fleet of Krangs.
Yeah. It's mainly going to be me.
All right, so today, the last review. I knew we had other shit to talk about, and I thought, oh, great, we'll end with a shorter one. It's another
Cataclysm.
Another Christmas-themed, uplifting story for the end of the year. This is Swamp Thing, Talk of the Saints, also featured in Swamp Thing Winter Special and Roots of
Terror.
There we go. This came out in 2018, is written by Tom King, illustrated by one of my very favorites, Jason Fabok, and colored by Brad Anderson, who we've talked about both with Fabok and with his work on Gary Frank, like the Earth One stuff. It's Brad Anderson. And lettered by And World Design. This is an Eisner-winning short story dedicated to Swamp Thing creators Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson, who died months apart in 2017. Another reason I'm always like, God damn it. You know, we were just talking about how the prices have gone up so much in the last few years and it keeps escalating. And I'm like, man, I got into this hobby of going to cons and meeting these guys and sketches and all this stuff. I got into it just too late. And then just now I'm like, oh man, they both died the same year. And I was even going to local cons that year. Like, I would have loved the chance to talk to these guys. Even found out that Len Wein also created Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, and Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It says that.
At the end of the winter special?
Yes. Yeah,
including
man. Co-creating the popular characters.
It would be cool if he, for once in his life, could like stumble upon an idea that people actually connected with and resonated. These bullshit side characters.
I know, man. It's like, oh, I created Matches Malone. Congratulations.
Whoa.
Yeah, who's this Colossus us? Never heard
colossal
of that.
failure, more like.
Never heard of that guy.
I swear to God, if that character ends up in a cartoon, I'll eat my words.
Colossus us?
Yeah. With a name like that.
Yeah.
I mean, at a certain point, you got to run out of names. So, you know, it's bound to happen.
Just put letters together randomly and see what comes out.
Mitzelplick?
Okay, I was trying to think of I didn't know how to pronounce it.
But
we never read anything with Batmite or watched anything with Batmite. What a bummer.
Yeah.
I know that's your
really
kind of Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Weird pixie sprite characters.
Before I knew that it was Mitzelplick, because I must have heard it on something, I just assumed that it was all of the letters, so I just memorized all of the letters.
MZXYP.
Oh, you would
TPLK. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I just assumed that I was like, well, this is stupid, but
this is a lot of work.
I guess this is what they say every time.
Labor intensive.
I have two questions.
Yes.
Tell me about
Tell
me about Swamp Thing's origin.
He was a scientist.
Okay, yeah. So Alec Holland, he's conducting these experiments. His wife is with him. There's basically some nefarious business interests, like they want to fucking.
Was this created in the 80s?
70s.
70s, okay.
So they want to actually. It's the first book. The first book on my shelf. If you want to thumb through it, but basically
his shelf is in alphabetical order. He just does not know the order.
Chronological, you bitch.
Oh, okay.
And so they basically want to, steal his expertise or whatever.
Swamp magic.
You know what? Yeah, I can't remember, but like
science?
whatever the thing is that he's working on.
It's probably something that'll like make things grow.
They come there and they're trying to muscle him. Yeah, it's like way before GMOs, but like that kind of a thing. They're trying to muscle him and strong arm him, and ends up that there's an explosion there in the lab, and he gets blown up. And so there's Alan Moore kind of changed it later. There's slightly different versions, but essentially he wakes up as this creature, and eventually I think it's actually that he finds his body. He finds the corpse, and he's like, well, wait a second. What? I'm not? What the fuck? And so, like, he's not even the guy anymore. He just has his, like, consciousness or something.
Yeah, that's weird.
So it's very strange. And so him, like, trying to reconnect with, the people that he knew, and, like Matt Cable and Abby Arcane. And
big enough, like we mentioned, to get a movie.
Yeah, in the 80s. Before fucking all the MCU movies, all these characters. There was no Iron Man movie back then, just Swamp Thing. But it's kind of the classic superhero experiment gone wrong.
Science transformation.
Yeah, exactly. And so...
How did Swampy become a guy that you like reading?
Great question, actually. I liked that movie when I was a kid, and I had.
Anytime Sam gets asked a question that lets him talk more is a great question.
Exactly. He's finally figured me out.
Great question.
No, I.
What was your childhood like?
Hey, there's more. Much more.
I had the movie when I was a kid, and I had the action figure and stuff.
Yes,
and
I had a couple.
yeah,
were like
there was
cool
like the glow in the
variations.
dark one and
Yeah.
shit like that. And I think Chase had a different one than I had, and that was cool. But I never really saw the comics around, and it wasn't actually until Bat Force Tom, who you guys will be hearing on the show eventually, is talking about the 70s ones and how he was obsessed with Bernie Wrightson's artwork. And I was like, man, I don't have any comics that are that old. Like, I kind of struggle with the older ones. You know, they kind of, listen here, kid, you know, like they sound corny. They got,
Shut that broad up.
yeah, they got the like very basic color palette. Like, I don't know. And he's like, I 100% guarantee you will like this. And I read it, and it took me a while to get through because it has a quality it's episodic. And so every issue is sort of like, and now we run into this other monster creature
standalone.
thing. And now we run into this angry mob of villagers who try to take down the monster. And now we run into, and there's these little self-contained things that are very interesting. And there is a thread, you know, as he fucking wanders through the world trying to find his place again. But it wasn't until I read the Alan Moore, like I have that giant absolute edition, and I just devoured that. It blew me away.
Yeah, this box
And-
looks kind of beat up.
Yeah, I chewed on
There's
it
entire
a lot.
digestive tract.
Well, and then this framed sketch right there is from the inker of that Alan Moore run, John Toddleben.
Smith, S-M-I-T-H.
Yes.
Smith.
But yeah, I was lucky to find that. It's actually art from the year I was born, smack in the middle of that run. I was very excited about that. But as I've tried to broaden this show in small ways, and okay, and then we're going to do a Catwoman book, and we're going to do a Harley book or whatever, I've tried to do that a little bit in my own reading as well with Swamp Thing and Sin City and Invincible and other things that are...
You might like 100 Bullets, Brian Azzarello.
Yeah. So this was one that I really enjoyed getting into, I don't know, last year. And it wasn't until this summer that I learned Jason Fabok drew with Swamp Thing. And I'm like, fuck, I got to get my hands on that. Ordered it, and this first story blew me away. So with that said...
I have another question.
No!
Why does Swamp Thing appeal to you?
It's interesting.
Super ugly.
Yes. It's
Yeah,
mostly
he
his
looks like
disfigured
stinks.
appearance. I mean, God, we've talked about Batman and
We know
Wolverine.
why you relate to Batman.
Stick to the question, please.
No, I'm saying like
Yeah.
we've talked about Batman and Wolverine and some of these other like loner characters and whatever who don't belong. And part of his whole thing is like he's looking for connection, and he eventually finds one in Abbey Arcane, but like kind of the world around him rejects him. And yet, as we'll get to in this story, he still has so much humanity left in him, even though he's not that anymore. And so you'll see him in these situations that are almost like mercy killings. To go back to Kevorkian that we were talking about on the previous episode, he realizes the situation he's in, but he takes no joy in doing it. And you'll see him stand up for people who are being taken advantage of. You'll see him fight off a mob who's trying to burn this lady as a witch or some shit like that, you know, and in this one he's defending the child. And I don't know, I think that he's got an interesting duality of his own.
Nice.
Have you read any of his stuff before? Ben?
I've only seen him as like a heavy hitter character
Like a
in
cameo.
other Storios. Oh, what the hell? Goodbye.
Ben wants Oreos.
No, I mean, the one that immediately comes to mind is the Batman and Harley movie, where I feel like it ends in the swamp. But he's like that. He's usually like...
He shows up at the end and he's 70 feet tall.
He's like a god tier character, and he shifts the tides. There's some other like alternate universe story I remember reading, I think, where he played some big part in it, where either he was dead or the swamp was evil, or I don't know, something wild like that.
Oh, you know
that's
what?
where I normally see him.
I'm remembering now that Bronze Age collection was not the first Swamp Thing book I got. It was Swamp Thing Green Hell was a Black Label series. I think it was Jeff Lemire or Lemire, I don't know how to pronounce his name, and Doug Mank. Or Mankey. I don't know how to say anyone's names.
Oh my God, you fucking moron. Have you tried reading?
Yeah, I can read it, but I never heard anyone say it out loud. But anyway, it was those two guys, and the first issue was crazy. It was like these villagers in Alaska or some shit, and it's kind of a post-apocalyptic thing where there's not a lot of humans left, and this thing comes and starts just wiping them out, you know, and they call on him as a protector to come back and fight. And it's very interesting. And yeah, I mean, I'd seen him pop up in little like poison ivy related things here and there. I thought, wow, this first issue is insane. It's really gnarly. The artwork was crazy. And then around the same time, I'm talking to Tom, and he's like, oh, you got to check out the original. That's where you have to start.
Awesome.
Well, I was going to ask if you guys were at all familiar, but what was your first impression of this short story? So we haven't talked about Fabok since Three Jokers, I don't think, and we haven't talked about Tom King ever before, and we haven't talked about Swamp Thing at all. So this is a lot of new stuff today.
I thought like, well, this is weird. How's this going to go? I like Tom King. As I've said many times, I read all of the Snyder run, and then since I had it on DC Unlimited, I just kept going and switched to his run.
Yeah.
So not only did I not like the bat suit in his version, at least at the beginning, it's like the weird kind of yellow design. It's not bad. It was just such a
the rebirth
shift.
Design. I like that design.
Is that the
with the purple and the yellow border on the logo?
I thought there was a design that comes after that, but maybe I'm confusing it. Something in there was weird, and then I just didn't connect with the way he wrote Batman until, and I've said before, it's the end of Jokes and Riddles. Just like that conclusion is just really, really cool. It's a neat look at both the Riddler and the Joker, especially up to that point, because I was like not sure how I felt about his version of those characters.
Yeah.
But his justification for it in the story, why they're different, really clicked. And then all the Catwoman, Batman stuff, I love that, the romance element in their stuff.
Did you read the 13-issue Black Label run that follows that with Clayman?
Oh.
It's really good. I think I mentioned it on one of our last sessions that I just binged it in one sitting. It was really, really held my attention.
So I didn't know what to expect with this. It was just like, where's Jesus going to come into this? You can't have a Christmas story without Jesus. So let's see how this goes.
I don't have any kind of preconceptions or anything. Just like ground zero,
Take
really.
it for what it is.
Yeah, the art is really nice. I felt confused most of the time.
Which is a feeling I actually like in comic books. And that's not a joke. I mean, in general, I'd rather err on the side of not knowing enough versus having too much spelled out for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the more interesting things about this is you are given no context except the little kid's commentary explaining to our protagonist what happened before. And so by the time you start to piece it together, to me, I thought that was really satisfying.
There's a Rick and Morty episode that this reminds me of, and I feel like there's also been Star Trek episodes maybe where it's like that, where the episode starts and they're like, who's this character acting all chummy with all these characters I've seen for years? And then that's the reveal later on is like they've inserted themselves in it or something, or they weren't always there.
Right.
So that gave me a little bit of those vibes of like where you just dropped right in the middle of this story.
Yeah.
But I don't know who like, oh, this is Little Richie, who's in every Swamp Thing story. Like I have no context for that.
No, yeah, this is a totally isolated thing.
Swamp Thing, Billy fell down the well.
I will mention, though, that I read his dialogue sort of like Andy Serkis plays Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movie. Well, because they use a lot of ellipses and he takes a lot of pauses because it's not natural for him to speak. And so he struggles to, is like, I am afraid, or whatever his thing that he's trying to say is always kind of come out in segments.
I hear it like Lord Humongous
in very plain language.
The Road Warrior. I am the monster.
Well,
just walk away.
What's with the football intro and outro?
That's just weird Tom King shit. I don't love it. Well, on that note, it opens with 3 pages of 4-panel landscapes. We focus on a falling leaf in the swamp, and the sun is quickly eclipsed by the snow before it gets so heavy that it obscures even the word bubbles. And this is a great choice by either World Design or Brad Anderson. I don't know, but I love the way it
Richard
kind of
Starkings.
eats up. Yes, it's always Richard Starkings and Comic Craft.
Every time.
But the way it sort of eats up the narration there is great. And the only words we get here is from some unseen football announcer. He's interviewing a player who talks about losing in the second half. Like, felt like there was some kind of monster out there. And then it cuts to Metallica, some kind of monster. And the words just gradually fade away at that point. And the first big reveal is a splash page of Swamp Thing carrying this child through a blizzard.
Cool shot. That'd be a great poster.
Wendigo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Swamp Thing versus Wendigo. I'd read that.
And there's nothing around them but white on all sides, like the movie Get Out. And I have seen Swamp Thing in a lot of different places because, again, the episodic nature of he's always on some new fucking place. But this, just with the washed out snow, felt very fresh to me.
He must get around. He does a lot of walking.
He gets his steps in.
It just makes me think of like the TV Hulk. Like, hitchhiking to the next town for the next adventure, the next corrupt lumber mill to take down or whatever he did.
This is my actual note. You said lumber mill. They continue lumbering through the storm, and we skip ahead where they've stopped to rest. The boy says, "You're not a monster after all. Monsters do bad things, like the snow monster who caused this."
That's a nice Tom King line. I like his monsters are bad things who do bad things.
Yeah, exactly. But Swamp Thing cannot feel the green, which is sometimes they get more into this, but there's the Parliament of Flowers and the green. It's kind of their version of the forest with nature, Mm-hmm. And Poison Ivy stories will touch on this as well. But Swampy cannot feel the green through all this snow, and he can't remember how he even got there. As they're talking, the artwork is stealing the show as he breaks off his own hand and rubs his fingers to start a campfire. I saw you looking at that page earlier and I was like, I fucking love that part. The next day they're walking again. This kid is strapped to his back like Yoda on Dagobah. Somebody mentioned Dagobah.
I mentioned Dagobah.
Okay, yeah.
I like Star Wars, guys.
I've never heard of it. And he tells the story
it's like
of
a second-tier Star Trek.
Okay, got it. He tells the story of how the storm started. He was in the swamp with his family, the boy, and that's when the snow monster came. He was separated from his parents, but Swamp Thing saved him, and they started running. He says, that was only the first time you fought him. Later, they come across an angry bear. Swampy places himself between the bear and the child, so when it lunges, he lands on his back. The boy is safe.
That panel is sick with the 3/4 with the bear in the foreground and Swampy in the back.
Yeah, that whole sequence is just so effective to me. When he lands on his back and the bear's chomping at his face, he's holding his jaws. He says, basically, "I'm sorry, friend. I do not have another way to return you to where you belong. But when the snow melts and you become one with the green, I will return and guide you home." So again, like, you're trying to kill us. I have no choice, but I don't want to do this.
Well, there's
I don't.
The end of that line, which he also says later, which I really like, was this, you'll have to take the longer path.
Yes.
Which is just an interesting way of putting it.
Is that like part of his character or his role? Does he act as like...
He deals with other worlds. Like, I didn't know
he's like the ferryman
of the river Styx.
Yeah.
Someone who guides you from this realm to the next.
In Greek mythology, you have this ferryman that you pay, and is he like...
I thought you were calling him gay.
I mean, yeah, the ferryman. No, the ferryman. From Greeks, from Greece, the ferryman.
Is he like the entity that passes...
Well, I feel like the plant stuff is part of that, because plants eat all decaying matter and everything.
So
exactly. We even witnessed that later on, but I think that this world also uses characters like John Constantine and Etrigan and those type of. So we're definitely like going from the human world to the green to spirit world and beyond in Swamp Thing mythology.
Well, and so overall, does this fit with the vibe of Swamp Thing, where like who the villain, who the monster turns out to be, and what the resolution is? That like is this a Swamp Thingy kind of story, or is this?
I haven't actually read any modern Swamp Thing books aside from this. Well, these two collections that the story is featured in. I don't have anything else beyond these. I would say that the older ones, they tend to focus on his rivalry with Arcane and the villain of the month that pops up.
But is the villain of the month
guys,
like a evil businessman, or is it like also supernatural creatures?
Yeah, definitely supernatural creatures. And I think that this is clever to me just in the way that it unfolds is much different, because a lot of them, they're more obvious threats. They're more on the nose, and I don't know. Honestly, doing this episode made me want to go back and read my Alan Moore book again, because it's been maybe a year since I read it, honestly. So I just burned through all my Sin City books, and I'm caught up on everything that I have now. And so after doing this episode, I was like, man, I should go back into that Swamp Thing stuff again, refresh my memory, because I really enjoyed it, especially on those giant absolute pages.
He really skewers this bear with his chest boner.
Yeah, these 2 pages are just heartbreaking as he, holds his mouth and so he can't bite his face, and he extends this giant vine blade thing through his chest and into the bear and through the back of his neck, and lifeless, this bear falls on top of him.
It's like the bear
gradually pan out,
yelling too.
Ah!
Yeah, he's not making bear sounds. He's screaming like a man.
My family.
Yeah. Ow!
I'm almost offended by making jokes at this moment, because this is like a sad part in the story for me. I don't like animals being harmed.
Bear's gonna eat that kid.
When he checks to make sure that the boy is safe, he says, "You saved me. See? You're not a monster." As they move forward, he asks the boy why they're going this way. The boy tells him, "It was your idea to find somewhere that was still green so you could connect with the plants again." Swampy hears this, but he cannot remember. They come across a bunch of human corpses, and there is one survivor. He tells him, "Relax, friend, I will help you." The guy rolls over with a shotgun and blows his fucking head off. The guy now draws on the child in a scene that could have very well been the inspiration for Yellow Jackets on Showtime, popular show this year. He says, "The kid has a lot of meat on him. It's not that he isn't sorry, it's that the snow just does something to us."
Makes you hungry.
Makes me want to eat children.
Which, if you haven't watched Yellow Jackets, the pitch of the show,
it's like a Lord of the Flies kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like
lesbian cannibals.
Yeah, basically, there's like a plane crash, and then they fucking eat each other to survive, and then they fast forward to the adults
kill each other and eat each other,
selves.
or they eat the dead them.
Yes.
Okay.
The opening shot of that show is like some crazy, like, oh God, they have gotten insane. They're wearing these crazy, like, fucking witchcraft outfits and shit, and they're setting traps and murdering and all this shit. And through 2 whole seasons of the show, they never get that far in the story. And I'm like, fuck you guys, I hate this. Because they just never deliver the thing that I just want to know so I can stop watching it. I just want to know how they got that far.
Did the show get canceled?
No, it's still going. There's going to be a 3rd season. There's still some great acting in it. Juliette Lewis in particular is great, and the young cast is awesome too. But yeah, it drags for sure. Anyway, this is one of my favorite parts, because as the guy, he's got the gun on the kid, he's making his little speech in the foreground, Swamp Thing stands up behind him and gradually reforms his head in each panel before apologizing yet again. "I am sorry, sir, but I do not have a way to return you home, so you must take the longer way."
What? No!
Cut to the Dixie Chicks. A montage now shows them traveling for days on end. The boy keeps talking about their battles with the snow monster, but he still can't remember. Eventually, they're washed away in an avalanche. He frantically digs to find the boy in the snow, pulling him out and holding him in his arms to keep warm. It is all right. You are safe. Later, the boy's foot is blackened with frostbite. Understandably, the boy says, "You are a monster," when Swampy turns himself into a saw and cuts off the foot to save his life. Over a campfire, Swampy grows berries from his hands to feed the boy, who says, "We'll never beat him, you know. The swamp will never come back." Swamp Thing says, "The green will return. I promise everything will not always be snow." I feel like this is just story hour now.
Yeah, I mean,
there's not a lot.
There is not a lot. The meat of like the idea is at the very end.
Yeah.
And it sort of teased at the beginning with the whole monster thing. I guess this is a con, I would say. This is very clearly a standalone. And so without foreknowledge of the character and familiarity, it doesn't carry the weight it would otherwise.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like I'm tuning into a dream that can only make sense for the person having the dream.
Well, I think that's a great way of summarizing it, and that's kind of why it's interesting, though.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, you really don't know. You really don't know what's going on because our main character doesn't know what's going on. Another montage shows Swamp Thing getting weaker, stumbling through the snow with the boy on his back. In these little vignettes, he tells the boy about his life, about the accident, how he tried to show with his actions that he is not the monster that people see on the outside.
In this 9-panel page, this kid looks like he's got 2 feet.
Yes. I will come back to that.
All right.
But yes.
It was all a dream.
Used to work.
Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis.
Eventually, Swamp Thing collapses in the snow, saying, "I'm sorry," over and over. He's in a full Christ pose, looking withered and emaciated. The boy says, "You can't give up. He's still out there." And as they forge ahead, the boy says, "My dad is gone. That I know. But maybe you could be my dad, even pretend dad. Then you wouldn't be a thing. You'd be my dad."
Swamp Dad.
Yeah.
They keep walking, and finally, with the boy on his back, he falls again, right on his face. Again, he says, "I'm sorry. I cannot carry you anymore." And with tears in his eyes, he continues to say, "I cannot, because you are the monster."
That's a beautiful 2-page spread.
Yes. That far back zoom where it's just the two of them facing each other.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Swamp Thing continues to say that he doesn't know how long they've been doing this, but he knows that it would take years for his body to deteriorate like this, and that the child would have long ago died in these conditions. He must have tried to forget, tried not to act. But to bring back the green, you have to kill the monster. And I think this right here ties into what you were just saying of like, well, wait, doesn't he have 2 feet there? You know, and so I think he's going like, I can't keep denying this to myself any longer. Like, I know that you have the face of this child, but there's no way you aren't the source of this as well, you know?
Whatever this is, it's not reality.
Yeah.
Well, it almost too seems like the goal, the monster is like, just keep going, because then Swamp Thing is his protector while he spreads this everywhere they go. So it's like, oh, you got to keep going further. Oh, just a little further. Go, run from it. Let's go.
Well, not just that, but like the longer he keeps him going in this environment, then the weaker he gets. And that's, I mean, how else are you going to defeat a guy who's already dead and basically can deteriorate and birth from nature, you know?
Well, you see it in the beginning, because I mean, the story starts in like a wooded area, and it only becomes snowy when Swamp Thing shows up.
The boy begs him not to kill him, saying, "You protected me and kept me warm." Swampy says he doesn't remember much, but he does remember caring for the boy very deeply and feeling that he himself wasn't such a monster for that. "But you did what a monster does. You show me that though I try, I am like you. Now, always, the monster." During these last words, he tearfully hugs the boy and then appears to snap his neck. Still hugging, they lie on the ground together, as the snow melts away, and so does the boy's body. Over the final pages, Swamp Thing dissolves into the earth, and as the green returns, so do his roots, and eventually his body. As he walks back into the swamp, the sports radio resumes. They say that the player's excuse that it was just a monster out there was bullshit. There's no such thing as monsters. If you want someone to blame, look in the mirror. The only monster out there is you. And there's the dedication now to Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. Short, to the point, but effective. I've never seen Tom King that stripped down. He seems to be a very wordy guy, the intro and outro.
Definitely.
And likes to be very obtuse, I think. Scott Snyder's a wordy ass writer, right? But I don't know. Sometimes Tom's is no one would say this out loud.
Yeah, I think you can tell when people are reaching sometimes. This just isn't natural.
Yeah.
Nobody would choose to use these words.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing would.
Yeah, Swampy would.
He chooses few words, which I just got tired of writing Swamp Thing over and over, so I started saying Swampy. So I don't know.
Why use many word when few word do?
Yeah. I didn't want to just start calling him Alec, Then Dr. Holland carried the child. Yeah, the only thing I had in Easter eggs was just that they do a good job of concealing it for the following pages.
It said Bill Finger National Forest.
Stop.
That's where they were in.
But after he cuts off the foot, they do a good job of hiding it and only showing the kid waist up in the next few pages. And so you don't notice that it's there the whole time. And it wasn't until later in a farther back shot that you wait a second. He has both legs in the air.
He's standing.
Yeah. So, quick pros and cons on this guy.
I mean, it's an interesting idea. And it runs through the whole thing where he kills the bear not because he wants to, but the bear is a danger to them, so he has to do it. He kills the man for the same reason.
Yeah.
And at the end, he kills the boy because the boy doesn't seem like he's trying to do this, but he's just kind of like a destructive parasite. And he's like...
Parasite's a good way to put it.
Yeah, the only way out of this is I have to kill you. And that makes me bad. I guess I'm bad, sort of, but I have to do this.
It would be interesting if, Punchline had her little origin story in the 80th anniversary Joker special. It was just a little short. It was her in her dorm or whatever, and her first killing. Then that led into her own spin-offs and stuff, and I think she had been utilized in the main Batman title a little bit, but just to have that one little short, and then now she gets her own spin-off as well. I would kind of like to see this more developed of where did this come from? How did it start? What actually happened?
Well, that was my question about is this par for the course? Because is Swamp Thing constantly dealing with weird supernatural mysteries? Almost like an X-Files thing or something like that?
The ethereal plane?
Yeah. Because I get what the villain of this character or the villain of the story was. It's some kind of weird winter spirit or something like that.
Yeah.
This seems like the kind of thing where a character bonks their head and then this is the representation of them coming out of it. The kid is trying to keep him in a coma or something like that. But
we started the story halfway through or something?
Yeah, I just didn't see him bonk his head. So I'm just in this dreamscape. And yeah, the kid represents him staying in whatever state he's in.
Yeah.
But him ridding himself of the child is him waking up his body.
Sure.
And undoing the coma or something. But that's not what it is.
Yeah.
Could be that. I don't know.
I mean, yeah,
I will say I also tried watching and it's hard to find too, so I had to actually buy a copy on eBay, but the Swamp Thing series that was made for DC Universe, right before it became HBO Max, it looks awesome, but it's terrible. It's they cast a great person for...
Peter Weller?
Yeah, no, for Abby Arcane, the main girl in it, but they just... It's like a bad TV drama, CW kind of thing that then has occasional awesome scenes. We never got to doing the show Gotham, but a little bit like that. Actually, the woman is from Gotham, if I remember. She's the same one who played Sophia Falcone. I don't know. But that show, Gotham, will be the campiest, dumbest shit you've ever seen, and then cut to like something fucking awesome. And I'm like, what? Make up your mind.
My biggest problem with
one are
Gotham
you?
was the one, as I've complained before, the fucking Muppet Baby shit of like, and you were there, and you were there, and you, like all these characters. They don't all have to be there, all connected, all as children. Like some things can happen naturally later. That, but then also the characters that were original or unique to this show, or seemed to be, I thought were dumb and like not.
Well, I wanted to read the Fish Mooney origin story, but they were sold out because she's so popular.
That's the prime example. But there are others that I'm just like, wait.
Deadshot comes in and he says, keep my fucking wife's name out your fucking mouth. It's crazy. My prose is just incredible artwork. I love the simplicity of this story, an excellent payoff at the end, a great twist. And as I mentioned, when you asked why I like the character, I think that this is a good example of still his humanity shining through despite the circumstances. He's never hardened by the things that he goes through or the things he has to do.
Where does he sit on the trifecta?
The detective ninja trauma?
Yeah.
Wow, good callback for the final episode.
I just wanted to work it in there.
Only you can answer this because we aren't experienced enough.
He's been through a lot. I'd say a lot of trauma. Not much of a detective.
And he was a scientist?
Yes.
I guess that's sort of detective-y.
Yes.
Yeah.
No ninja.
I mean,
Smarts.
I would say if any sort of detective element, it would be trying to piece his life together and what happened,
How he
and
got
like
here.
discovering his own body and that kind of shit, it definitely more of a self-discovery, but yeah, I mean, there will definitely be times where like, oh, he gets fucking kidnapped by these people and then he's chased by those people, and there's times where he has to figure out what the fuck is even happening anymore.
A stocky gentleman, 6'3", not particularly fit looking, punches him in the stomach and he just tumbles over and then they wrap him up and kidnap him.
So yeah, nothing much to it, but I was really pleased to find this one. I thought, oh, Fabok, gotta check it out.
It's definitely pretty.
Swamp Thing. Pretty.
Yeah, right. He's lovely.
I mean, I like the design. I like the weirdness of it.
But like
Shut up.
This winter special, it's a collection of short stories. And usually when you get, like I mentioned, Joker 80th anniversary or something like that, there'll be one or two memorable ones and the rest of them are okay. I've purchased enough of those sort of anthologies or whatever you call them. And this one, just as being the lead story in it, I was like, fuck, that is really cool. I've been selling stuff on eBay. But I had some smaller figures that they're not really worth much, and I just traded them into the local comic shop, and that's how I got this, the Roots of Swamp Thing or whatever. I forgot the name again. But yeah, I grabbed that, and it was so good I had to pick up the winter special because I would love to get that one signed by Jason Fabok someday.
Nice.
Rating on this one, I know it's very brief.
Art 4. Level of confusion 5. The end.
Okay. I was going to say like story 2. Not because it's bad, but just there's nothing there. This is a little vignette.
It's a bunch of dialogue that doesn't really mean anything to me.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the intro and outro are the only parts that are like,
if
you're really forcing this.
I just need one more slightly different take of the Waynes being killed. And this would have been the prime story to experience that from a new perspective.
Yeah. Tie Swamp Thing into the Batman universe.
He was a little dandelion growing in that alley where they were murdered. He
the blood made him blossom.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Well, now I feel like I missed the mark a little bit because
strong ending. Very appropriate.
Not only are we ending the season, right? In our previous seasons, we ended with not previous season, but like the end of the year, right? It was Batman Noel. That was Christmas.
Batman
Eve.
Returns.
And then we did War on Crime, Alex Ross, Paul Dini. Right, that was a short one as well. It was self-contained, and that was a good Christmas end of the year thing. And then I was like, all right, this one, I've been struggling to think of what would be a good wintry thing to end the season.
I haven't recommended like Batman and Son or
this
something
one's
like
short.
that. Or you shared in the group chat.
It was the doom that came to Gotham.
no, it was that like Merry Little Batman Christmas or whatever the fuck. Yeah, I don't think that's out yet. It also looks terrible, but I thought, oh yeah, fucking this is a good one. It's short. I'm realizing now it's too short. But we had other things to talk about. Oh, by the way, yeah, for me, just stumbling across this, it was an easy 5. I just love it so much. But as we discussed, that is my way.
Yeah. So happy to be alive and that these talented artists have made these
You
things.
get a 5 and you get a 5.
As we wrap this up for our final episode, I just wanted to pull a couple of these up here. These are our iTunes reviews. Fun and engaging podcast with great material from real Batman fans' perspective. And I'm sure that means me. And
who are they talking to?
This one says, my favorite Batman pod on the internet. These guys have a great sense of humor. They talk about the good, the bad, and everything in between. Whether it Bat Fanatic Bingo, Edgelord Joker, Sam's cat making noise in the background, they always keep your attention. Their admiration and knowledge of Bat content is second to none, which does not extend to our Swamp Thing knowledge.
Wow. Yeah.
And the pod truly feels like a hangout with the bros. So that's cool. The team knows what they are talking about. They do their research and have great opinions. Every episode is entertaining and fun to listen to. Sammy is a true fan. There you go. And able to hold his own in any discussion.
Can you read the 1-star one, please?
Do you guys want to read any of these?
I want to read the 1-star one.
Yeah.
Okay. Bring your mic over here.
Sorry, guys. I really wanted to like this, but the dirty language and dick jokes in the first 10 minutes just wasn't for me. Why does every podcast have to feel like they need to curse and have foul language to be cool and funny? Just stick to the subject. Not my cup of tea. Wish there was more clean podcasts.
Which is great because this is like an indictment of the world around him and not anything to do with us.
He's just like one more fucking nail in the coffin of modern discourse. We can't have anything clean and respectable.
Pick me a good one.
Here's one.
Wow. From Birdman Zero, Bird with a Y, best Batman show. My favorite Bat podcast out there. The 3 hosts have great chemistry and it's very entertaining listening to their takes on the different stories. Would love to hear you guys review Bruce Wayne Fugitive. Sorry.
Not gonna happen.
I like Bruce Wayne Fugitive. I will tell you, Bruce Wayne Fugitive is like many long arcs where it starts out really cool with a really good idea. And by the halfway to 3/4 point, you realize they have to fold it back into a serialized story and it just becomes pointless and disconnected. But a great premise and a great first half of a story.
You're like, nice try, guys. Good effort.
I forgot what we were doing here. Thank you, Birdman Zero.
Do you guys want to read any more of these?
Are there any more 1-star reviews? I like the bad ones.
Yeah,
no, just the bad one. Because that was
like the first week.
That was pretty early on.
That was the one we got in, first season that we never fully recovered. We're still at like a 4.8 because of that one guy.
That guy still hasn't found the podcast he's looking for. It
doesn't exist, buddy.
They just
I listen to the Blues Clues ones. The guy's still like, this is my favorite fucking episode where Steve goes to the mailbox and we finally see that fucking mailman.
1 dicks, 2 dicks, 3 dicks.
I'll just say again, I'm glad that people who listened to this and liked it did. I liked the format of like, when I listen to podcasts, I just want company.
Right.
I want to be entertained. I want to be like hanging out with people who do all the talking and I don't have to. That's why I like podcasts.
So you like hanging out with me?
Yeah, I can go. So what did Swamp Thing do for you? Talk for a while. Tell me about that. How?
First of all.
Okay, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to step out. You just roll.
Actually, one thing I've noticed about this show is that you can listen to it critically or you can have it on in the background, and I don't necessarily enjoy it any less either way. You know, there are times when I'm following along the story in my head, and that was kind of the idea for why we started going more and more into story stuff heavily, because I think in the first few episodes we were just kind of winging it a little bit. But I used to really like going to Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman, or I would go to the movie premiere for whatever it was, Iron Man, Batman v Superman, whatever. And then the next day at work, I'd listen to his play-by-play review, and it's like I get to watch the movie in my head again.
Sure.
And it's so fun, and I hear all their different observations, and then I'd go back and watch it again with all that new information, and I feel like I'm seeing it with completely fresh perspective. And that was really fun for me. And I love when people say, like Gramps said, like, oh yeah, make me go and read that book that you guys talked about because it sounded cool. I had an artist the other day. His page is Art in Motion. His name is Dan. He's a very good artist. I followed him. He followed me, and he's like, "Man, I got to read Lonely City. That was a great episode." So I think that shit's really cool. But for me, it's really fun as a companion to the thing.
Yeah.
To like, oh man, I get to watch it, and then I get to hear all these other perspectives on it. But it's also something you can just put on while you're doing the dishes or whatever, and listen for the laughs. What I try not to do is make it a serious slog that's, we're going to do a deep dive analysis of the fucking Dark Knight for 3 hours. Like, that sounds tedious, but it's only 3 hours because we keep interjecting with fucking humor.
Traditional Jungian psychology, this character would be known as the and if we look at it and we examine closer.
Yeah, if we could get a little more NPR, that would be great.
Jungian.
But yeah, guys, it's been fun. Like I said, even including all of my shows and other things I do in my life, this is always the one thing, aside from maybe doing homework sometimes to prep for the show, where I genuinely always look forward to it. It's never like, oh, I got to do the podcast today. I don't want, it's like, yeah, okay, that's going to be fun though.
At least it's homework on a subject that you really like.
Well, yeah, I think the hard thing for me is the detailed story analysis.
Writing the story again?
Yeah, it can take me 3 times as long to do it. Well, and honestly, the chore of this show for anyone who listens is, well, I don't know what the chore of the show is for the listeners, but
listening
for anyone who's listening, the hard part of the show is post-production. We do a lot of prep ahead of time to make sure we're prepared. And then there's a lot of stuff that comes afterward that's not just making the little artwork for the fucking promo, but especially editing. The editing is, I would say, probably an average of 6 to 8 hours per episode, maybe more on these longer ones, like the last one you heard that was, I think, 3.5 hours at the raw cut. To me, that's what makes the show what it is the pacing of it.
You got better at it as it went on too, especially with the addition of DJ style interjections and the samples.
Yes,
actually
I like
hearing the
that.
thing we're referring to, that makes it fun.
Yeah, I like that too. And there were times
you're still
when,
bad, but you got better at it.
Thanks. But on the first season, we had Jacob Weirin as my assistant editor. So he would do a pass, because I was doing both podcasts at the same time. And so he would do a pass over it and take out all the obvious shit, or somebody leaves the room for a minute, or any of that kind of stuff. And then I would go through and cut out the little stuff. But I mean, one of the episodes I looked and there was like 1,000 cuts on one episode, know, and so
death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah. And so there's a bunch of little tiny things, and sometimes I talk like Swamp Thing for some reason, and it's just natural conversation. It just happens, and so it's just shortening up those little things, and it's like so often as people are talking, we will say the premise of what we're going to say, but we're still working it out in our heads. And so put in some filler, and then we circle back and we say the thing that we just said half of. And so I'll take the starting point and I'll cut it in the middle of one of the words and splice it with the second time you said it. And now I have one salient point, right? As before, I was like, I fucking like the thing with the writing, exactly. And this is strictly for me as a listener. It's something that bothers me when I listen to other people's podcasts that are just raw fucking push play and let it go. I get bored. And in fact, editing the show for so long, when I listen to other people's shows, they'll stand out like, oh, there's an edit. Like, you're not doing any of this shit, guys. And so, yeah, I want it to feel fast-paced and fun, and I don't want...
Even though it was neither of those things.
Right. But, I don't want... We've talked about, like, okay, you can watch a 3-hour movie that feels like a 3-hour movie, or you can watch one that doesn't, and you're like, oh, man, that was actually really good. It kind of left me wanting more. I would always prefer that. I like that we've done longer episodes over the years, but I don't want it to feel like that, and I don't want you to tune out halfway through.
Well, I had a friend who did say that, and he's not really a Batman guy, I think he probably listens to true crime podcasts or something. But he was like, yeah, I liked it. It was just, sometimes it felt a little long. And I think it's because he was not approaching it that way, the way I approach a podcast. He's like, I want like, a concise, to-the-point discussion about a thing that's over in an hour or less. And I'm like, I want to sit in a room with people that make me laugh for, ideally, the entirety of my workday would be nice. Or for all these things I have to do. Like, I don't care. I can pause it and I'll come back later.
Yeah, there's times I'll go through 5 podcasts in a day or something because I just burn through Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend and keep me distracted from this fucking life, Yeah. And so, I like the longer episodes, but I always want it to feel fast-paced and engaging. Don't want it to stall like me stammering right now.
The hardest part for me was mastering those impressions at the beginning of every episode and the Robin one at the end, because everyone thinks those are the actors, but for it to be me is really impressive, and I don't think I get enough credit for that.
Yeah, you have done exemplary voice work on the show, and you did a good job of recording it in various environments, so it was convincing that they were all separate recordings.
Your newest Harley Quinn impersonation is
top
tier.
Tell Mr. Jerry said hi.
Yeah. You did really good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah,
sure, I'll never see either of you again.
Yeah, well, this is the last time we'll talk. But I'll just say, stay cool, chill, guys.
Actually, what was really funny, I'm going to say this on the show, Gramps hit me up the other day, and he's like, man, I was thinking about some of the possibilities of what we could do for season 4. And he's like, since you and I are both musicians, maybe we could talk about the film scores, a little bit, and, some of the stuff that maybe you couldn't have done with your co-hosts. And I was like, I'm going to let you in a little secret. We're all friends because we played music together for 15 years. Yeah. And he's like, I did not know that. I feel like an asshole. I'm like, no, like we don't really mention it, but we weren't friends through Batman like I am through you. Like I know those guys through Batman. I know you guys through music, and this just happened to work out.
Thanks for listening, everybody. It's been a fun ride.
Evan disagrees. He just
He's
like, I'm ready to leave. Yeah. We had a short review. I'm ready to go. How long are we going to drag this out? And the answer is, I don't know.
I just hate goodbyes.
The Batman Forever card. Never leave home without it.
Wrong movie.
What?
That was a Clooney, not a Kilmer.
But isn't the card Batman Forever?
Oh, like that's what was written on
the credit card, Batman Forever or something like that.
I see. Well, here's me not looking it up because I don't care.
Here's me looking it up because I do care.
I'm going to feel like anytime I mention Schumacher in the future, Evan's just going to show up and be like, what? You talking about my favorite?
Hey! Those are the episodes I'll come back for.
We're watching Lost Boys now?
Hey, you're right. It does say forever.
It does.
Sucking fucking idiots. The end.
It says Batman, good through forever.
Oh,
there
Goth
we go.
card.
There you go. It's the expiration date.
Yes.
Forever.
Well, hey, then you would have a great memory when you're like buying something online and it's like expiration date. What's the code on the back?
Yeah, I remember mine. It's 6038-4236-5039-03. And the security code is 673. Expiration date 9/26.
Can you read your billing address, please?
Yes, it's 1313.
If that was improv, it was good.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't,
I did not just read my code.
You're going to regret that I am not cutting that part out. All right, that is a wrap on season 3. Thank you guys so much for supporting 3 seasons and 4 years of this show. And a sincere thanks to Ben and Evan, my dear, dear friends, for volunteering so much of their time and energy when I'm saying, watch this thing that I want you to watch and read this thing I want you to read. And trust me, I'll figure it all out. And so it's been nothing but a joy to hang out with these guys and bullshit about this stuff. I do want to tell you, I've got an outline for season 4 written. I'm getting together with Gramps and Dunk, also from Bat Force Radio, and we're coming up with how we're going to roll out season 4. But first, I'm going to talk about some convention appearances, so stay tuned for bonus episodes on Fan Expo Portland and MegaCon.